This is David with The Verge, and this is the HTC Titan II. It's an AT&T phone. It's the successor to the HTC Titan, which we reviewed last year, and it's mostly the same phone. It's a little thicker, and because it has such a big 4.7-inch display, it's actually kind of hard to hold in one hand. Especially the power button, which is located up top, can be really hard to press if you're only holding the phone in your left or right hand. It has the same specs mostly as the last phone, which worked quite well. It has a 4.7-inch Super LCD, and it looks nice. It has great viewing angles and really deep blacks, but it's got the same 800 by 480 resolution, which Microsoft mandates for its devices, and that's just too low res, and especially on a screen this big, it just doesn't take advantage of all the screen real estate that's actually there. There are two major upgrades from the Titan to the Titan II, the biggest one being the 16 megapixel camera on the Titan II, and it's a good camera, definitely one of the best we've seen on a smartphone, but it's definitely not as good as HTC makes it out to be. Puts out relatively soft images to the point where it doesn't even seem to be necessarily in focus. You can never really find a spot in an image that's really sharp. There's a 1.3 megapixel front camera, which is basically the same. It's decent for what it is, but it's really nothing special. The other big upgrade from the Titan is the LTE connection, which is awesome. It's a huge upgrade from HSPA Plus, which AT&T has had before. It's a pretty fast connection. We got about 8 to 12 megabits down and 1 to 2 up. In general, the performance of the device is solid. It has a 1.5 gigahertz Qualcomm processor, and it works pretty well. There's really no lag as you do anything around the operating system, and that's, again, consistent to most Windows phones. The reception was solid, and call quality was pretty decent. The speakerphone's not great, but the microphone is actually really good, and battery life is great. The Titan doesn't have a particularly huge battery, but it lasts a long time. I consistently got a day and a half or more out of the battery before it died. Really, the Titan's biggest problem is that it runs Windows Phone. Windows Phone is a beautiful and elegant operating system, and I'm a fan of both of those things. And it actually does a number of things, especially basics like making phone calls or sending text messages, really, really well. But there are a lot of issues, especially with third-party apps. There's some scrolling problems and some weird multitasking quirks, and the email app has some trouble, and even Internet Explorer does a bad job rendering web pages a lot. And they're mostly minor things, but over time they become increasingly frustrating. Overall, the Titan II is kind of a hard phone to recommend. Windows Phone is definitely a third-place operating system behind iOS and Android, and there are great phones for both of those operating systems on AT&T, like the iPhone 4S or the HTC One X, which is coming soon. And even if you're committed to buying a Windows Phone device, you're probably better off with the Nokia Lumia 900, which is a much better design phone, and because Microsoft so controls the user experience and specs, the design becomes really the only thing that matters. The Titan II is a good phone, but unfortunately, its competition and its operating system kind of kill the appeal.